But growth for growth's sake is the ideology of the cancer cell. So what are we measuring when we measure growth? You're like, oh, yeah, America is growing. Okay, what does that mean? What it means is this number called gross domestic product. And there are two versions of this. There is real GDP and nominal GDP. Or, as I like to say, fudged GDP and actual GDP. Let's start with actual GDP because it's not fudged. Actual GDP is essentially you're trying to say how much value did all of the businesses in America produce. How are we going to measure value? Well, we can't really measure value, but we sure can measure sales and people buy, the price of what is sold is a measure of how much value it's contributing to the person. So our first approximation of GDP, which is the actual or nominal GDP, is to say basically how much stuff did all the businesses in America make, which means how much sales to end consumers did they sell. So if they sold $10 trillion to, end consumers, I don't know what these figures are, I'm just pulling them out of my ass, then maybe it's more like 20, I don't know. Then that's how much value was created. And then you adjust that because you say, wait a second, dollars, change over time. It's a funny, metric. What we're really trying to measure is how much people want things. And so we're going to adjust that, as they say, hedonically, for what these goods are actually worth. So it's super funny. Like, suppose I was to try to ask you for a number for how much better the 2020 Ford Mustang is than the 1995 Ford Mustang. Is it 3.2 times better? Is it 2.1? And your logical answer would be just like, how the fuck can anyone compare these things? And also, why does it fucking matter? So those are two separate questions. The way they compare them, they actually do this. They're like, oh, there was a time during the year when the 2014 and the 2015 Mustang were both on sale. So the difference between the prices of the new Mustang and the old Mustang must represent how much better the new Mustang is from the old Mustang. So you can do that for every year, and you can say, oh, this is how much, shit is getting better. You might have seen those inflation graphs where if you factor out the factors of inflation, you see basically food and medicine and college all going up, and then the price of TVs is going down. Like TVs and computers are getting
I think
much
the
cheaper.
American Enterprise Institute put out this meme infographic that gets put out saying see, look how many TVs you can buy now versus however many.
Same thing as poor people have refrigerators. This is an indication of progress and wellness.
And it's even more than that because. It's even more than that because every time the resolution of your TV increases, that's taken as a drop in TV prices. So to buy a 4K TV in 1995 is the price of the universe, whereas now you can get one for $3.99 at Costco, right? And so that means that to use a great line from Joseph Stalin. Life has become better, comrades. Life has become more joyous. And you're just you're looking at this, you're just wait a second. First of all, inflation is a monetary phenomenon, so what does it have to do with the quality of goods? And suppose no new money was being created, but our goods were always getting better. But the thing is, when you're asking these questions, you're in this strange you're in this world where you basically made a bizarre assumption. It's like you created a branch of mathematics where 2 + 2 = 5, and then you derive all of these theorems that can be derived from the fact that 2 + 2 = 5. And you've just created this weird alternate math, and your theorems make no sense and mean nothing. So in this case, the assumption that you're making that makes no sense, to go back and kind of deconstruct, if you let me, this GDP thing, is you ask the question, well, what is value? So you're saying what's interesting here in a way is that there's kind of a relationship between 20th century macroeconomics and Buddhism. And in a way, they're both saying the same thing, because value is the ability to satisfy desire. I desire a 4K TV more than I desire an HD TV, right? I really desire an 8K TV. So what you're seeing, you're saying things are getting better because the economy's ability is producing more value, which means our industries are better at satisfying our desires. Make sense so far? Because that's what you're measuring when you measure, especially real or adjusted GDP.
And this is an art, and just to kind of answer your thing as well. This isn't something.
Well, let me finish my rant here. So basically, obviously, the notion of desire is crucial to modern economics because you're measuring the economy's ability to satisfy desire by producing stuff that we like. With me so far?
Yeah. I mean, of course, the desire is often manufactured, but I'm following you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still a real desire. I mean, the first guy who gave us a hit of heroin, might have manufactured that desire. After that, we desire the heroin. And, is heroin production part of GDP? It certainly is. In fact, you can't really imagine a better way to satisfy desire with, industrial technology than just a giant fentanyl factory.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're like, okay, there's something a little suspicious here because the reductio ad absurdum of this system is let's turn the whole economy into a giant fentanyl factory. And I mean, it's kind of half happened already. But what's interesting, let's get back to the Buddhism here. The reason that that macroeconomics and Buddhism are saying the same thing is because they're both saying that the purpose of life is to conquer desire. And as you know, the Buddha, that's the essence of Buddhism, that the purpose of life is to conquer desire. And the only way to conquer desire is to satisfy it. Wait, that's not what the Buddha said.
I know my Buddhist friend is reeing right now.
His response.
What you actually find is that of course, modern economics and Buddhism are actually saying the opposite thing, where basically modern economics is saying, the purpose of life is to satisfy desire, which is merely a form of the good old Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what are life and liberty for, except for the pursuit of happiness? In fact, you could even just, lose the word pursuit, and you could say that America is about happiness. America is about satisfying desire. For certain... There are many situations in which building a society to satisfy desire and the condition of England overlap. Clearly, I desire to have good sewers so I don't have to empty my, bucket of night soil into the gutter every morning. Is the condition of England improved if England has sewers rather than stinking gutters? Yeah. It's definitely improved. So those things are sort of parallel in a way. But, what's happened with modern technology is we've gotten to this point where we see these lines diverging. So you see GDP going up and you see the condition of England, or rather the condition of America, it's also the condition of England, of course, actually declining. This economy is getting better and better at satisfying desire, but sort of worse and worse at something else that matters in some way, although we don't even really know how to articulate it. And if I just let me finish this rant, and then you can rant at me. There's a pre-modern way of defining the purpose of government. I don't know if you've heard this. Salus populi suprema lex.
I don't speak Latin.
Yeah, I don't speak Latin either. But all it means is the health of the people is the supreme law.
Okay.
It's the state motto of Missouri, so it can't be racist. Or maybe it can't. But the point of Salus populi, which was essentially agreed on, it was just unquestioned until the modern world, until utilitarianism, really until the Industrial Revolution, is the phrase "the health of the people" in as it's used there doesn't just mean like biological health, although nowadays we see that it certainly includes that. It means the spiritual health. It means the condition of the people. Spengler, speaks of like, the condition of the people being like the condition of a racehorse. Is this racehorse, fat and, eating just oats and candy all day, or is he ready to run a race? And, but if you give the horse a choice, he'll eat nothing but Hershey bars. And so you really see, to sort of summarize, the difference here, which is, the basis of my kind of philosophy of government, you see these two alternative ways of defining the purpose of state and society. And one of them is salus populi suprema lex, the condition of the people shall be the supreme law. And the other is the GDP-oriented approach, which I would call luxus populi supreme lex, which translated simply means popular luxury shall be the supreme law. And so, we've sort of conducted this experiment in luxus populi suprema lex in the 20th century, and I just don't think it fucking works.